Welcome in, guys. If you don't know who I am, my name's Dan Heaney. I'm a business consultant that specifically works with golf instructors and coaches to help them both increase revenue in their in-person business, but also think about the ideas and concepts behind transitioning to online and different ways to monetize their expertise when it comes to golf in different areas, because we're moving in a direction where that's going to be a huge thing. If you haven't seen over the last year, think I've done about a half a dozen different webinars for V1, and we're going into some of these experiences like you're going to see in this video right now, which is basically diving in with golf instructors to do an audit of their current business, understand the biggest limitations or bottlenecks and what they're ultimately trying to accomplish, and then solving that so that it can hopefully help other instructors out there who watch it to be able to solve the same problems and issues. So today with me here, we're diving into Jim's business. Jim, I'm going to have you introduce yourself a little bit just for anyone that is watching this who doesn't know you. Share your current situation, where you are right now, and then ultimately the desired outcome of what you want your business to look like. And then we'll go through the different constraints and how to potentially solve those as we dive in today.
Sure. So my name's Jim Estes. I've been in the golf business for 30 years. I was at a facility, a driving range / practice center for 22 years. And then I moved to across the river. I live in Maryland, so I'm in the DC metro area. And it's a busy area. And so there's clients, but getting clients, as I've evolved in the game of golf, we've been pretty much a private instruction business model for when I first got in the business in 1991, and I've moved to more group coaching. And I'm a contractor with 3 different golf courses. I have a contract with, there's 2 courses in Virginia that I contract with, and then a training center called Peak Golf Fitness. And they have 2 facilities. They have one in Ashburn, Virginia, which is not far from the Commanders. And then they have another facility in Rockville, Maryland. So I go there and I do indoor and outdoor. Now on Sundays, I go to Golf Galaxy. Why do I do that? Because I want to actually funnel clients from Golf Galaxy to an outdoor experience. So we have a practice center, a par 3 course, and then we have a tee line with 110 tee stations. And we've got it's a really nice facility. It's public. And then Maryland, I work with Jason Meesh, and Jason's a top 50 golf fitness instructor. He and I were on the ground floor when TPI started, Greg Rose and I, and he started 2000, Greg started, and I took a number of classes from Greg. He's a chiropractor, engineer. He runs TPI with Dave Phillips. So I've always been into fitness, and I've tried to feel like, hey, how do I get my clients motivated to use golf fitness to help their golf game? So that's kind of my scenario. I do a student assessment. I worked with Will Robbins from 2017 to about 2020. And Will has a coaching consulting business like Dan's doing, and he helps golf pros around the world, improve their revenue and use group coaching as the model, because obviously you want to improve your hourly rate. What you do, his whole philosophy, if you charge 75, you want to double your hourly rate. So, and you can do that with 4 people in a class and you price it properly. So that's kind of the scenario. I'm a long-term coach. I like to do long-term coaching, and my business model is I try to get guys to sign up from the student assessment. I credit that student assessment towards the purchase of a 10 to 12 week group coaching program or individual program. But I've really asked the client, what do you want? If we were going to have a conversation in 10 to 12 weeks, what would have to happen for you to be happy? And how can I help you achieve your goals? And let's do an assessment of your game, and then I'll give you a written plan and a practice program with clearly, I want to give them realistic goals in a timely fashion. And I want them to feel comfortable that we've got a connection and that they can text me when they want and they can send me videos. But, in the summertime, that's great. But when it's winter from, say, November to February, what what's the revenue source? It's indoor lessons. And then obviously I want to try to improve my online coaching business. I've dabbled in it the last 10 years, but I've not really taken it seriously. Haven't really gone about it the right way. And frankly, I'm not a great marketer. I'm just more of a performance coach. I'm not a marketing person. I'm uncomfortable upselling. I'm not afraid to offer, but I'm not like when I was desperate. Of course, I walked the tee line and I say, "Hey, I want you to hit some shots. If you have any questions, let me see if I can give you some quick tips to help you with your game. I can certainly help you how to practice better, and I can give you some things for your golf as it relates to mobility, stability, balance, strength, things you can do for your golf game." I started a nonprofit in 2007 to give combat wounded guys the opportunity to use golf in the rehabilitation process called Salute Military Golf Association. And that was really helpful because I worked with the hospital and amputees, and it really just opened my eyes to how important golf can be in that rehabilitation process. So I have somewhat of a reputation as being golf doc, meaning like my dad was a doctor and I worked with doctors, and I have some medical background, biomechanics background. So I can get people to move, and I can find the power source and identify how they can play better golf. And I played golf on the PGA Tour, and I never won a college golf tournament. So, I'm not afraid to use resources and have an open mind and learn. So that's
I love it. There's a lot in there that we're going to unpack to set the kind of give people an idea of where we're going to go with this. And I like to think about golf instruction businesses in two buckets. We're going to talk about both of those buckets today, but I think it helps from just a thinking perspective to place them separately. And the two buckets would be in-person instruction and online instruction. And the reason I separate those out is because the way that you market and sell for those two businesses, while there's similarities, they can be very different. And I think that's the missing piece for a lot of coaches, is that they think the model that works for them in person is going to translate online. And all they need to do is start posting content or running ads. And then all of a sudden, like, I'll get online students just like I did in person. And it doesn't work because it's fundamentally different. And the biggest thing is there's a level of trust for in-person instruction that is not there online. And so when you think about it, someone that's in your physical location, I'll use this example, but I love this example because I think it clearly illustrates this. If you've ever been on vacation before and you happen to meet someone that even like lived near you, right? Like we did this, we went to Thailand for our honeymoon, me and my wife, a few years back now at this point. And we met a couple from Canada, and I'm in Rhode Island for anybody that doesn't know. So like technically it's not even the same area, but they spoke English in a foreign country, and they were from the Toronto area, which is just north of where we are. Yeah. So just that little thing, we met them at a Thai cooking class, and they're from Canada, not too far away. Just that, we immediately like felt a bond or connection or this like trust that like, hey, we could, hang out with these people. And we ended up, we did. Like, we had no idea who this couple was. Right. I mean, they could have been serial killers for all we knew, but because they were from, the Toronto area, not too far away, immediately we had trust for them, and we asked them to hang out. It ended up that they were great people, and we have a friendship to this day. But that's the difference, right? So like in person, they're physically from your area and location, automatic some trust there. This is a real person. They work at this course, this facility, this driving range. Right. I can see them. I can walk in the door, I can shake their hand, and I can talk to them as a human being. This is why golf instructors typically close at a very high rate in person. 8 or 9 out of 10 people who come in seeking to get help end up buying something from you, right? And then they expect that same thing to happen online, and it's a totally different animal. The average conversion rate from a sales call online is more like 15 to 30%. And 30% is if you're amazing. Wow. So one of the biggest things is shifting the mindset behind this. I talk to coaches all the time that are like, I'm talking to people in DMs online. I'm booking free swing analysis or lessons, but no one's converting, and I'm doing all these lessons for free and all this stuff. And they just don't understand the numbers behind it when it comes to online. Where if you do 10 free swing analysis, you might get 1 to 2 clients if you're doing a pretty good job. And that feels tough because it's like I'm doing all this work for what feels like a not so great return to what I'm used to with selling in person. So just distinguishing those things is kind of like a baseline for us, is to understand that they're similarities, but they are also fundamentally 2 different marketing and sales, like I guess, avenues. Right? They're very different and distinct in certain ways. So I would love to start. You mentioned this golf doc. I actually love this because this is the frame that I was going to go into for talking about sales anyway, is taking a doctor frame. So it's perfect that you have that experience and background, because that's the way that I like to think about selling. Is selling is not sleazy used car salesman who's trying to like get you to buy something that you don't need or want. Selling is ultimately serving. And if we can take a doctor frame to the way that we are selling, we're basically just understanding the problems that the golfer is facing, and we're diagnosing and then prescribing what we see as the expert as the obvious choice to help them get better. And then, like you're already kind of doing, you're just going to present them. I like to like do 2 options, keep it simple. If you have more than that, there's decision fatigue, and we can get into all that. But then we just present them 2 options that would fit best for what they're looking for. Let them decide. So I actually love that heading into it. So let's start in-person business and how we can potentially make some adjustments and make things better there. Then we'll go to online. That's a bigger beast and animal, but we can tap into that a little bit.
Sounds great.
So in-person wise, what are the constraints? What's the biggest problems that you're facing right now? Because I love some of the things that you're doing, right? $1 per hour. For anyone that doesn't know my background, I owned a gym for 7 years. And so one of the things that like, I would never run a gym again, brick and mortar gym. But if I did, I would go into a private, small group, semi-private training facility, because that's in my opinion, outside of like being the giant national brand, like a Planet Fitness and owning a franchise, that's a volume model. I wouldn't go that. If I was a small business owner that was going to start a gym again tomorrow, I would go semi-private, small group training. And because personal training is not a bad way to start, but you can maximize your $1 per hour by doing exactly what you said, which is like go small group. The person on the end actually pays a little bit less, but in total, because you can have 4, 5, 6 people in the group, you end up making more per dollar.
It's a better value. Yeah. You're giving the customer a better value. You're giving more time with them. And you do have to convince people, because they think that it's kind of a boutique service to do a private lesson and you're going to get better. It's really not the case, because in a very complex motor movement like golf, if you give somebody more than one thing, you're just going to make them worse. And so an expert coach knows what to say to fix all the problems, one thing. So in my experience, I watch great coaches and they make it as simple as possible for people. And the person walks away much happier because they have one thing to work on. Whereas if you're a young coach and you're trying to tell them all the things you know, and they walk away with 6 things, then they don't know what to do. So I think online, that's critical. The reason I say it is because you have a limited amount of time, and you're relying on technology. And sure, I've coached for 30 years, and I've watched, I don't know how many videos of people over the years. I've been with V1 since 2001. So my point in saying that is, yes, you have to be clear, concise. And when you have that business connection, when I say a business connection, like if I was going to Dan, and as a consultant, he was consulting with me, having him in front of me and having him watch me teach golf would be more powerful than doing an online coaching hour with Dan, like we're doing, I think if he watched my business, it's the same thing when I watch other coaches coach. It's a better experience in person than it is online. Now, how do you make that online experience equivalent to an in-person one? And that's kind of the part where you know, it's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll dive into that for sure. When the in-person business, so underlying a lot of the things that we're going to talk about today is really what holds back, and this is not just golf instructors, but this is just human beings in general, is this is one of my favorite quotes of all time, which is like, we question all of our beliefs except for those that we truly believe, and those are the ones we never think to question. And so we all come into today, like life scenario, what's happening in the marketplace with potentially 10, 20, 30, 40 years of experience that have formulated the beliefs that we currently have. And I see this as like, you know, the classic, like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, I'll tell you, like, it is harder because a lot of times the instructors that have been doing this for the longest periods of time and have a certain way that they do things and beliefs about the way that golf instruction has worked the best for them over the years struggle the most with adopting to the current state of things. And the ones that usually take off, if you look at it, like the majority of they may not actually have good businesses or be good instructors, but sometimes the ones that are very popular online aren't necessarily the ones with the most experience and aren't necessarily the coaches with the best teaching philosophy or able to get the best results. But it's almost like because they were so naive when they started, they just went all in on, you know, producing content and believing that this thing in the system of online was the way and that it was going to work. And that's why they've been able to flourish with it. And so that belief is really powerful in many of the things that we talk about. But like, if you don't believe that group instruction will work for you and that you can't do it, it's going to be very hard to sell. If you don't believe that online instruction is valuable for the golfer, the client that you're going to work with, it's going to be very hard to sell. If you don't believe that that what you're selling is worth a certain amount of like dollar value, then it's going to be hard to charge higher prices for that service. And so that underlies a lot of what we're going to discuss in all of these different areas. But if there's anything that you're saying that can't work or whatever, if you look out at the marketplace and there's someone that's doing it, like, I would just like implore anyone watching this to look deeper into that and potentially question it, because there's demonstrations of how these things can work really well all over the place. And so the concept is proven.
I mean, I look at these influencers, and like George Gankis is a friend of mine, and he's got 1,000 people that are paying $250 a month. I mean, I don't know if the numbers are exactly that, but you know, and that's just this online business. And he's got people, like, I have a client that pays $200 a month, and I'm coaching him, but I'm talking to George about, you know, and I'm coaching him in person, and he's getting lessons from George Gankis. And I'm like, what are we doing here? But he thinks George is, you know, the holy grail. And look, it's going on. Erica Gorno, I mean, the guy makes $1 million a year, you know, and he's giving classes. I have a friend that took his class and he improved his online presence, and he's got an online coaching business now. And, you know, so I know it's possible. And I know that I can provide a value because that's how I learned when I was playing golf for a living. I'd video my coach, tell me what I need to work on. You know, how's my mind? What's going on up here? Am I being too negative, or whatever the case may be? So I know it works because every tour player does it.
That's what I was going to just say, is that I don't know the exact statistics on this, but obviously, like, some coaches travel a bit more. You know, you have those coaches that are famous for this, like they're at almost every stop with their players and, you know, shooting videos from the latest tournament. The vast majority don't do that because that lifestyle sucks. And if you have any kind of like family or whatever, like, you don't want to do that. So I imagine the vast majority of coaches who work with players at that level do most of the feedback and instruction virtually. And so it's already like proven out that at the highest levels of the game that's valuable. Now they still meet in person, right? There's like strategic checkpoints that when that happens, because there is added value to being able to do that and have those touch points. But those check-ins in between, 100%, like those pros still see a lot of value in doing that with their coach completely virtually.
Exactly. And when I go to these networking opportunities where, we proponent group, and I talk to these high profile coaches, they all have an online business. They all have it. I mean, some higher than others, but they all have it. Why? Because they have a brand that's recognizable. They're in Golf Digest, they're in Golf Magazine, they're a top coach. They've done all the marketing. And then there's guys like me who are terrible marketers that are very smart. And I played on the PGA Tour. There's not many guys, but I haven't taken advantage of my credentials. I just haven't. I mean, I'm a 2-time national award winner, and I'm not even going to go into it, but like I just haven't done it. And so I always am trying to get better. And if you're not willing to learn and realize that the greatest teachers never cease to learn, then you probably shouldn't be doing this like what I'm doing.
Yeah, and I think it's really important too. Like the number of coaches. So it's really hard to get clients and to sell something that you yourself aren't actively pursuing or doing. So like if you're trying to sell students on the idea of paying you more and working with you in a long-term committed relationship and you becoming their coach in what they do and how they improve over a longer time period, but you yourself aren't doing that. Or like I see this all the time. Like I came from a fitness and nutrition background. I've worked with 1,500 fitness and nutrition coaches to transition online too in a previous business that I worked for, where that business did over $10 million in top line revenue when I was a part of the leadership team. It's like a big company. We worked with a lot of people. And I saw this all the time as well there too, where coaches who want certain things of like this ideal client that don't embody those things in themselves,
right?
Which if you're out of alignment there, it's very challenging. So like, I don't care if somebody ever buys anything from me or like gets consulting from me or whatever, but if you're not actively pursuing that for yourself and in a structured way, right? Because so many coaches act exactly like the students act that they don't like, which is kind of what you're alluding to earlier, which is like, I'm working with a player who's off here paying another coach to get virtual lessons from them. Like, and it can't be optimal because they're having two people talk to them. And so I hear coaches all the time that complain about the YouTube. They're out here watching 7 different instructors on YouTube and trying to piece together their tips and then coming back to me to try to, fix this mess.
So in my improvement plan, I make them sign a sheet for this 12 weeks. You're not going to watch YouTube videos. I'm going to give you all the content and just let me keep your mind very clear. Clarity is huge. And I told Coleman, I've told him many times, George and I are not the same people. You're going to hear something different from me. He's like, well, I don't come to you for the lesson on the swing. I come to you for like playing better. I'm like, okay, well, playing better means you got to have the right thoughts when you hit the ball. Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, whatever.
Yeah. Cool. So let's solve some problems because it's all great. I think it's really powerful for people to hear this stuff, but let's get into like tactical stuff for you. As far as like in person, if there was like one thing that we could change over the next 90 days to make in-person business more successful, what do you think that would be?
Well, for me, my goal is I want to get 50 people in a $1,500 coaching program. So 12 weeks.
Is that 12 week? Okay.
12 weeks, 10 mandatory sessions out of 12. You can not be there for 2. Here's your plan. Please, I'll guarantee your results. If you do 3 hours of practice a week, you're going to have to hit, 70 putts, okay, from 4 feet. And you got to make 70%. Okay. And you got to go through your routine. I'm just giving you a hypothetical. That's going to take, I want 20 minutes on short putting, 20 minutes on lag putting. And then I want you to be able to, inside of 20 yards, I got to get your proximity on your first chip 8 feet or less. That's all doable. You don't have to be a great athlete to do any of that. You just have to be diligent and disciplined in your practice, and every shot's got to matter. So that means you're going to compete. That means you're either going to compete with your friends or you're going to compete with your wife, and she's going to get your money because she's going to say, okay, you got to do this, or I get to go do this. Whatever.
So
I'm just giving a hypothetical.
50,
but it has to be under pressure.
50 in a 1500 program. Is that like over what time period do we want those 50?
12 weeks. So, roughly.
Do we want 50?
3 months.
So do we want 50 at one time in the 12-week program at 1500? Do we
No,
want
not at one time. My goal I gave myself a deadline of so March 21st is the first day of spring. Like right now, I've got 5 people that have signed up for $1,500 programs, and I want to have, I don't know what realistic. Last year I had 30 of them for the year, but I want 50 this year. And if you do the math
50,
on that,
50 for the season, essentially, right? Like that'd probably be a good way to say it.
Right. And some of them will be in the weekly beginner golf coaching program on Thursday night. And some of them will be in the advanced program on Saturdays, breaking 80 and breaking 90. And then you'll have people that sign up for a private coaching package for $1,500. So, it's $399 a month. That's 4 sessions at 2 hours, which is very reasonable. We're going to do at least in that 4 session period per month, we're doing 2 on-course sessions and we're doing 2 off-course. And in that 2 off-course, you're going to get your customized plan. You're going to get swing analysis. You're going to get short game. You're going to get mindset. You're going to get an exercise program. So
is it 1,500 for 12 weeks or the monthly?
So the private's 1,500 if you want to do, so it's 10 hours if you do 1,500.
Okay.
It's 10 hours for private, and then it's 12 hours. It's 12 hours for the group. You got to be there 10 times out of 12.
And that's a $399 a month. Cool.
Yeah, and that might be too cheap, but I mean, I'm not really interested in the money. I'm interested in the volume. I mean, if it's too expensive, I need to do a survey and say, is that too much money? But I don't know. I've never had
how many
on the money.
How many group sessions do you have a week during that time that people could show up for?
Right now, the way I do it is I got to get them filled first. I want 4. I got the 2 sessions I have on Tuesday and Thursday. I want filled. So I want 8 people in that session. Right now I have 4. I just did a marketing plan with my management company, and they put out some nice. We have a marketing strategist. She's great at email marketing, way better than me. So that's what I pay the 20% for. But in the past, when I owned my own business, I would gross, almost 200, and I would only pay $1,000 a month. But then instructors didn't like that. So then they would complain to the management, hey, this guy's got a better deal than me. And I said, well, I negotiated the deal. Here's my facility use agreement. Don't be, you have the same, I can't help you. I mean, you got to have 25 years in the business and do $1 million and, whatever. I mean, it's like, then when I moved to Maryland or Virginia after 20 years, they shut the range down. It got bought. Now I'm kind of not back to square one, but I'm at a point where I didn't have any leverage to go into. This buddy of mine, he's a partner and he's got 6 golf courses, and he's like, well, this is the deal, take it or leave it. I'm like, I'll take it. I have no leverage. I don't have a place to teach. I'll build my clientele up and show you that I'll be the most valuable component to this business right now in terms of the instructors that you hired, because I'm going to just work harder. That's all.
Yep. Yeah. It's tough because obviously you want something back for that investment beyond just like the ability to use the facility. So yeah, if there's any kind of like additional marketing stuff that they would be willing to help with, but even just having a database that they will put together marketing campaigns for can potentially be worth it. And then obviously like you have to pay for facility use. And so having access to really nice facilities is a benefit and something that you wouldn't have to pay as a business expense. So like if I went out and opened my own simulator studio, obviously there's probably going to be a bigger chunk of my capital expenses every single month, like operating expenses that are over 20%. So 20% not bad. I've heard a lot worse. I've heard of golf
I'm a member of
a
a group, and I agree. But proponent group, Lauren Anderson, he was the Golf Digest guy. He was the editor. He does all the data, and he said, the top instructors only pay 10%.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
I said, that's great, but I'm not a top instructor. I'm not a top 50 guy. I'm not a top 100 guy. He said, but 87% make money online, and the top instructors all have an online presence, either through Instagram or Facebook, but they all have an online presence first.
And so I have a client that works out of San Diego, and they have 170K on YouTube, 100 plus on Instagram. And so that's a negotiating chip for them. They got a one place they were at for many years. This was probably a year and a half ago now. Decided that they wanted to change the agreement, which was going to be like, it was going to make it to where it didn't make sense for them to be there. So they ended up having to leave and find a new home. In the first year, that new place gave them a great deal because they were like, hey, we see your brand. We want you here at our facility. So it brings more business to us. After a year, they tried to renegotiate and significantly change that operating agreement. And so, but because of the power of their brand that they had built, they were able to go into those negotiations and have something to work with, some leverage to be able to say, hey, look, we're not going to pay that. So if you want us to stay here and continue to bring you business like we do, then we need to come up with, let's negotiate.
And the KPIs, what are the key? Are you bringing business? As every single parent playing golf at your facility, and if you can, just itemize all the revenue sources that you provide as an instructor, and that's hard to do, frankly, because I'm me and I'm not going to do that. I mean, I need like somebody else to do that for me because I hate that stuff. But that's me. Now, some instructors are very detail oriented, they're very organized, they're good business people. I mean, I can take QuickBooks and do it, but I hate it. I can take a statement and itemize my expenses and look at my gross revenue and my expenses and do all that. That's not a problem. But when you're talking about email marketing, social media, all of the things that it takes to run a business, you just can't do it all unless you have a guy like Dan.
Yeah, it's tough. And typically what I see is 90+%. I think it's probably close to that 87% fact that you just said, which I would love to have that data. That stuff's amazing. Building my own data set, like as I work with more professionals, but they have way more data than I have, which is cool. But I think that's probably close to like 87% of golf coaches are not doing that stuff and not properly tracking and have no numbers on their business and don't understand. So they can't walk into a conversation like that. They don't have the social media presence to use as leverage. And then they don't have the data or numbers to use as leverage either. And then they don't have the money to necessarily like to say, hey, screw you guys. I'm not going to stay here. I'm going over here and make this transition or try to go out on their own and all these types of things. So, I mean, that's a huge thing. Like if you can't do it yourself, try to find somebody that can help do this, for you. And if it's an expense thing, like sometimes the simplest is like look for some sort of virtual assistant that potentially like works with multiple businesses at the same time. So you just be like a small client to them that you can pay a monthly just for them to help you organize the numbers behind your business to understand like how many clients have I worked with in total. This is another crazy thing that I ask instructors all the time that have been doing this for many years. It's like, do you have a list of the thousands of students and people that you've seen over the last 10, 20, 30 years?
V1 has a list and on their servers, and I have a list, but then you have to clean your list, and that takes a lot of time. And that's what Marcella did, and that's what Leslie helped me with. I got 10,000 people that I've seen over 25 years, but I don't want to do that. That's going to take me forever. And I got redundancies all over the place. And then I had somebody steal my list. That's a whole nother thing. You guys could do a whole class on just business education. Like, how do you spend your dollars wisely as a golf coach? Do you put money into social media? Do you put it into email marketing? Do you put it into finding a facility? Do you partner with another one? What about finances? Do you understand how banks work? Banks, they make money on both ends. They make money when they lend you money, and they make money off checking accounts because they don't give you anything for a checking account. Do you have a home equity line of credit? Yes, you should have a home equity line of credit in case something goes wrong. You can take the home equity line of credit. You're paying simple interest on a home equity line. You're not paying
cheap money compared to a lot of other things.
Correct. Yeah. And so I guarantee you 90% golf pros don't even understand how banks work.
Well, 95% of people don't understand how banks work. So that's probably accurate. I love that idea.
Yes.
Well, definitely double tap on that for some series coming up where we can talk specifically about that stuff. So I will give a very brief summary of what I think golf coaches should be looking at from a numbers perspective. Just baseline, simple as it possibly gets. Here's the things that you need to understand and know about your business. And then we'll do some series in the future, like diving into these different categories and going more in depth. Here's the thing that I don't think most coaches understand to start with. One is, how much money do you want to make? And I would do this on like a yearly basis and then work back into what you need to be making monthly. And then if you have peak season versus out of season, which most places do, how do you account for that? By understanding, like, I need to make most of my revenue for the year in person between these dates. And so that means that I need to like do significantly more. So maybe May through October, I need to be at 15K a month because I know that during the winter, especially right now, as I'm potentially building an online thing. So begin with the end in mind. So like, understand what is the goal, then understand if you do that in top line gross revenue for your business, then what are the expenses that are going to need to come out of that? So one, like, what's your tax burden? What are the expenses that you're going to be paying out to the facility, the course, the driving range?
But also, are you an S Corp? Are you an LLC? Because an S Corp has pass-through income, and that's an advantage over LLC.
I'm not a tax consultant, so do not take this as advice, but I agree with Jim, and you should be an S Corp versus an LLC. Talk to your tax professional about how to set that up properly. But that's a big thing. Like, most people don't understand taxes when it comes to running their own business at all. I would just say ask your licensed tax professional, and if you don't have one of those, get one, about becoming an S Corp instead of an LLC. And then minimum viable income as an operator inside of your business, take the other as owner's draws, and that will help you to offset the tax liability of your business as much as possible. But again,
and I realize we're way off topic here, but these are things that over my career, I did not learn. At your age, Dan, I did not know any of this stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's powerful. Like, it's really useful. So again, begin with the end in mind, how much you want to make, split that into monthly revenue, gross revenue, have the expenses laid out for it. Even if it's simple, even if it's like back of napkin, it doesn't have to be exact, but say like, okay, I'm going to allocate 20% to taxes. I know that I'm going to pay the facility I'm working out of another 20% out of that. And so if I have this basic idea of what I need to do from that perspective, from a top line revenue, and then with the expenses that I'm going to have, that equals my bottom line or take home at the end of the year. And then when I'm able to pay like lifestyle expenses out of, the bills that I have and the lifestyle that I want to live, now we actually have a starting
place. I have one thing to say about this too. I think dedicated business credit card, not a debit card. There's too many problems with debit cards. Dedicated business credit card. I don't care if you work for somebody. You should have your own business anyway. Everybody should have their own business if you're a golf pro. Even if you're an assistant pro, you should set up your own business and learn how to run a business.
Yeah, and the difference, so like you'll see this if you are an employee of a club, or if you are a contractor of the club, you need to understand that and what that means. And then obviously have a business entity set up. If you are a contractor, even if you are an employee, you probably do want to set up a business entity to be able to explore different ways to make money as you grow. Because typically most people that start in an assistant pro role do not see their entire career being inside of working at clubs and just rising the ranks between different clubs and, you know, living that whole life where you have to manage a lot of the stuff that happens at the course and inside of the club versus spending time teaching and working with players, which you ultimately want to do. So like, there's all those things. So like, that's got to understand that if you haven't set up if you own your own business and you're making money and you have not set up a corporation to take that money out of, you don't have a bank account that's associated with that corporation. And then you'd be surprised if you have decent personal credit and you're starting a business for the first time, there's a lot of opportunity there to get a business credit card, but then also to get money if you needed it to start this up. Totally different topic. And we could do a whole, training on that, which I could do sometime, but like, you definitely want those things set up. You want to understand basic finances behind your business. And then you need to set a goal monthly for what you need to make to hit those targets by the end of the year. So that's basics. Then you need to understand, based on what you want to make, I'm going to work back into what I'm going to charge based on how many clients I want to work with and how many hours I want to do on the lesson tee. So
and a work year is 2,000 hours. So if you want to work 30 hours a week, and you work 8 months a year, 30 hours a week, how many lessons is that? Or how many group classes is that? You just have to do a little bit of math. I'm not great at math, but I can do a little bit of math, not on my head all the time. Like some of these guys that work on Wall Street that, can do math in their head and algebra.
Yeah. I mean, 52 weeks in the year, you probably want at least 2 weeks off. That's a standard at very minimum. So 50 weeks that you're going to be working, and then it's like, all right, well, how many hours do you want to have to work a week? You probably, while you're young, cool, go for it, hit 40, like go all out. As you get older, you're probably not going to want to do that. So then we need to understand, hey, my goal is 20 hours, 30 hours, whatever it is, actually physically on the lesson tee. Cool. Now I know what I need to make per hour of doing that to hit my target at the end of the year. I can work back into my pricing that way instead of the pricing that most coaches choose is just like, all right, I did a general search in my local area. I feel like I'm this experienced or worth this much money. So now I'll set my price here.
One billionaire told me one time, the price you charge is the price that you can get.
Yep.
And if you provide a service and a value that's worth $1,000 an hour, then you can make, and if you're Butch Harmon or you're David Ledbetter, maybe it's 5,000 a day. I don't know what it is. I have no idea, but they've built that brand and they can charge that. But if you can't charge that, don't have an ego that says I'm going to charge $175 and work 10 hours a week.
Yeah. And like, I would say like, this is all to get to my ideal state, right? And understand that like, depending on where you're starting, are you able to actually charge that? And then one of the biggest things for rates and being able to get a certain rate is just simple dynamics of supply and demand. So this is a economics 101, business 101 thing that everyone getting into business, I won't say everyone, the majority of people getting into business just have no concept of, right? Supply and demand. The reason that a Rolex watch is expensive is not necessarily because that watch is 100x the quality of material that some other no name knockoff brand is. It's because of the way that they've positioned it, the brand that they've built around it, and the fact that they control supply on all of their watches. And because of that, they charge a premium and they have a wait list, and you have to sit on that wait list. And the second they call you, you better be wiring them tens of thousands of dollars, or they're going to move on to the next person.
Here's something a client in Fort Lauderdale told me. He's got a Ferrari. And I said, John, how do you get a Ferrari? He goes, I can't get them. It's a 3-year waiting list. I said, how much is it? $2.8 million. They make it. Takes a year. And if you want a special paint job and you want a racing engine, that'll cost you another $1 million. And you can't get one.
Yep. Yeah. So that just illustrates supply and demand. And so one of the things that has kept coming up is that your personal brand that you've built helps with the demand side of things, right? So when you have so much demand that you physically can't supply it, you get to charge whatever you want to charge. That's why whatever Butch Harmon charges, he can get. And like, he may not even want to take it. He may be like, yeah, like I'll do, 2 days a month at this point, and they're going to pay me $15,000 to come see me. Cool. I'll do that. Right. Supply and demand. So understanding where you're at on that and the levers that you can pull. If you're just doing hourly lessons and you have a certain amount of lessons per week, that is your supply, right? That's the number that you have. Now, if you don't have enough demand,
you're maxed out. Aren't you correct? You're maxed out. You can only do a human being can only do 6 hours a day if you want to have a good lesson. And if you work 5 days a week, that's 30 hours a week. And I mean, that's a lot of teaching, and you better be on your game, because if you give a crappy lesson, they're not coming back and they're going to tell 5 other people.
Yeah. That's why I would always lean on, unless you're brand new and you don't have any demand because no one knows who you are, you don't have any like client testimonies, case studies, you don't have a track record, I would lean more on the side of constraining your supply to not just have this open calendar that has 40 reservations available. And because of that,
that's a great point. And I think that I've even made that mistake coming to Virginia and not having any business. I just leave my calendar open. I shouldn't do that, because that makes it look like I have no business. And then people are like, well, I don't know, he's not any good.
And so I would leave that. The way I would kind of frame this is I would have open availability, because people will have schedules that will limit their, someone will say no to a lesson that they want to take just because you don't have a time that they want. But I would constrain the number of lessons that you are physically actually going to book in that week. And so if you can do this inside of a calendar setup that you may be using, it's nice to actually physically have that displayed to say 15 of 20 lessons are already taken this week. These are the times that I have available, which is more than 5 times, but I only have 5 left. And if you want one, you better book that in, because these typically book out. And so this is any coach that is really, really has high demand, supply constraints, and is booked forever, can't take anybody, 3 months out, lesson book. That's kind of what they've set up, whether they intended to or not, is that they fill their calendar and still have a think about it like a line around the corner, standing at the door, waiting to come in, and they can. It's like the popular club in town that everybody wants to get into, but they're full. And sometimes they're not even full. They just tell people they're full to have that illusion when they're not.
I have a friend, Bernie Najar. He just won the PGA National Coach of the Year. He's at Caves Valley. And I said, Bernie, when can I get in? He goes, right now, July is your July.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
See you in July. All right, cool. So selling the 50 packages at $1,500 or the monthly, what's the biggest limitation to doing that? I'm imagining I know the answer to this question, and it probably lies on the demand side. But would you say that it's just getting enough people interested or having a sales conversation with you about it?
I think the most powerful way is face-to-face, to have a cup of coffee or a 5-minute conversation with somebody face-to-face. The closing rate's much higher. And so I'm old school in that regard. But I also need to realize that on a day like today in Maryland or Virginia, it's snow on the ground, it's dreary, it's 32 degrees, golf's not necessarily the priority. It's a priority on Saturday when it's going to be 75. And I have 6 lessons on Saturday, but I have 2 tomorrow. So I've got, 8 this week. I try to keep track of the number, and I try to do 31 a day in the winter. Now, am I doing group classes? No, because I pay for an hourly rate with an indoor facility, and I can't book 2 hours back to back. And unless I get 4 people. And then you got 2 bays, 4 people, probably not the best scenario. People are going to go, hey, that's not a good value. I'm going to spend 10 minutes standing here and this guy's going to hit. So I don't know. I don't know how you feel about group coaching. And unless you, inside, it's kind of limited. Now there's a putting green and there's a fitness area, but there's only 2 bays. And I'd have to occupy both of them. If I had 4 people, I'd have 2 in each bay. And then, I don't know. I've never tried it. I usually just do indoor lessons in the winter, and I just do private lessons. But maybe I could do group. So that's an idea.
Yep. Yeah. With as far as like trying to hit that goal of selling the 50, especially in season, as we're coming out and spring's about to start. If I said do you think you have enough people coming in to speak to you in person about working with you to hit 50?
I do calls and texts. I take all my best clients from the prior year, and I actually text and call them and say, hey, how's it? And I don't talk golf right away. I just go, hey, how's things going? How's your health? How's your family? Taking any trips this winter? And I talk to them about their life. And then I said, if I get around to the golf, that's great. I say, look, I'll be out at the golf course on Saturday. It's going to be 75. If you're available and you want me to, take a look at your swing, or we can go out and play a few holes, let me know.
Cool.
And they'll either say, but these people that are business people, they have their calendars, organized, 3-4 weeks in advance for they got their family life, they got their work calendar. So you gotta, realize that people that have children like yourself, they have to plan.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. That's huge for me for sure. If I don't plan out any golf that I'm going to be doing well in advance, it usually doesn't go very well. So I think that's
feel
huge.
like golf pros don't do that. I mean, I can tell you, my wife's great at it. She's an organized person by nature. Everything's a routine for her. And I mean, I'm organized in detail and routine oriented with my golf, but my business life, not so much. 1 hour per day on social media, make 2 posts. I've tried to put that on my phone and do it.
Yeah.
I'm not great at posting. So then I got to edit the video, and then I got to do the words. And it's like my wife, my son and daughter could do it in 3 minutes. It takes me a half an hour. So
we'll get into social media. I think for in person, the biggest thing is we got to get enough consults to be able to then sell enough of those packages. Yeah, I think if we just focus on getting enough people to talk to you, the sales will happen. I don't even necessarily think that it's a sales issue. We just need more volume walking in the door right now. And then down the road, we may find okay, now that I'm upping the volume of people coming in to talk to me, my close rate has dropped. Cool, let's look at that. But I'd imagine it's pretty high if you can have a coffee and talk to somebody.
Yeah, and if I walk the tee line and talk to people like I did when I first started in the golf business, when I was at the driving range, I mean, I'm sure I could do it. It's just it's like cold calling. It's just numbers, right? I mean, if you cold call people and you just be nice and try to get a connection with them. That's the thing I learned about great salespeople. They make the connection before they make the sale. And they get the trust. Like you were saying, you develop the trust, and you can trust this person of high integrity. What they say is what they're going to do. Once they get that, it's all about, you can't wait to spend time with a person.
Yep. So ways to get more of those consults for in person. It's really we have guerrilla marketing tactics, like I like to call them. and then there's advertising. So first we'll start off with the stuff that just is like manual effort, doesn't necessarily cost money, probably have access to them already. You just got to put in the time and effort into it, which the easiest is following up with past clients, current or past, that just check back in on them, like you said, and see if they're looking to come back in heading into season. Now's a great time. March, spring's about to hit. There's a shift in psychology right now, especially in Northern Hemisphere places like North, where people are experiencing winter, where they're starting to think about that. They're seeing some 70-degree days, and they're like, oh my gosh, I see it at the end of the tunnel. We're coming out of this. I'm going to think about golf again. So just being there is huge. I know a lot of coaches are like, oh, like, I don't like to do that. They'll come back to me when they're ready. They'll whatever. It's like, that's terrible. Everyone is so busy. They are not thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. But if you just pop up, you'll all of a sudden be front of mind. They'll be like, oh my gosh, like, oh yeah, I should go see Jim. That's a great idea. Let me make a plan.
Well, Dan, just imagine this. You're running a fitness facility and you have five fitness instructors, and they took that attitude.
Yeah.
You'd be out of business.
I'd fire them. Yeah.
Yeah, you would fire them. It's just like if Microsoft said, hey, I'm just going to work when people want to call me. They'd be like, you got to do $150,000 in the next week or we're going to fire you.
Yep. Yeah. So this is another thing about like understanding the metrics on your, what would be called online, like your funnel, your pipeline, whatever you want to call it, like how you actually get clients. If you're looking at warm prospects, which are current or past students, you want to understand, I do X number of outreach to past students. I typically get this many responses. I get this many to come back in and have a consult with me again. And then this many end up becoming students. Then if you know that, you can say simply, okay, if I do 1,000 outreaches to past clients, I'm going to sign up 20 people into this program at $1,500. I just made $25,000 or $30,000. Right? Like, so that's predictable inside of your business. Nobody does that. No one thinks about it that way. And they just see like, oh, it feels weird. I don't want to bother them. I reached out to 5 people who didn't respond. So nobody wants to come see me. No one wants to get better at their golf, whatever. Just take the frame of like, people are busy. It may not be one outreach. They've come to you before. They already know they like and trust you. You just got to touch base with them. So that's where I would start for sure.
I tried. This was the goal when I started this year. I need to talk to 5 people per day about golf, and I don't need to close them. I just need to talk to them, and they need to stay on. Like, I need to text them. How's it going? What's going on? Did you play any golf this week? How's your kids doing? Are they hitting any balls? Like, I had a kid in my church. He's like, hey, you're a golf pro, right? I got to try out for my team next week. Can you give me some lessons? Yeah, sure. And it just came out of the blue because I told him I was a golf pro, and he's like, I need lessons. I got to go out for the team. I haven't played since November. So any chance you can to talk about what you do, is helpful, right? With any of your networking opportunities, whether it be church, whether it be, maybe you're in a bowling league, maybe you're, whatever.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Here's a simple tactical thing that you can use if you feel uncomfortable at all about like reaching out to people with like I feel this tension of like, I'm trying to like get them back in and sell them something. I learned this from back when I owned my gym, and I was in a program called Gym Launch with Alex Hormozy, who's like a very big online business guru now. Millions of subscribers and people follow him these days. He did $100 million launch last fall of a new book. He's very well known and makes a lot of money, but he developed this idea back when he was working with gym owners, and it would work exactly the same with golf instructors. Is you message all of these contacts and you simply say, hey, we're going into season and I'm launching a new program, March 15th, 21st, April 1st, whatever that is. It's a 12-week program to help people prepare for the season. do you know anyone who might be interested?
We'll call it a 12-week boot camp.
Yeah. And you're just that it doesn't really matter exactly what you call it. It might just be you saying, hey, I'm opening back up my full schedule of lessons heading into season. The magic is you're not asking that person. You're asking them if they know anybody. And typically that person being like a friend, an acquaintance, a past student, whoever this is, if they're interested, they will just simply say, well, I don't know if I know anybody, but I'm interested. I'm thinking about. And so that's a nice, easy way to like, you're not pitching them. You're asking them if they know anybody who might be interested. And oftentimes they will be interested.
That's great. That's very helpful.
The other ways are really like, if we're talking guerrilla marketing, it's kind of what you said. It's like, it's shaking hands, it's talking to people, it's being at the club or the facility that you want to do these lessons out of or sell these programs out of, and talking to people, because that's your already ideal prospect who's there and potentially would be a great fit client if you just built a relationship with them and some rapport. And you can certainly offer free value first. I think you don't ever want to get to the place where like you have some entitlement behind what you do as a coach, which is like, I've been here forever, I'm established, I don't need to do that stuff anymore. The ones who are the best are just, they're constantly connectors and chatting with people and friendly and helping and whatever. And then even if that person, you don't necessarily have to sell them, even if that person's not ready to get a lesson right now, the second they are, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, like, I think I'm going to look up Jim because he's amazing. He's so friendly. We had this great conversation the other week. I'm going to go see what it's like to work with him. So that just like being present, being open, being friendly, chatting, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of other stuff that you can do, right? Guerrilla marketing tactics. I mean, it's flyers with QR codes. It's those sorts of things.
You can partner with a fitness instructor who's TPI certified,
so that's a great
partner with a coach that's got a huge reputation and bring them in for the week. I mean, there are ways to 100%. Do it. I used to do it. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to do it.
So that's another way, and I love that you brought that up, is stealing other people's audiences, or you don't have to steal them, but borrow their authority, borrow their demand. And so partnerships are amazing ways to do that locally. Like you said, golf fitness instructors, or just any other brick and mortar business or ancillary business that might have potential ideal customers that you could do some sort of referral play for. Usually I like some sort of reciprocation. So one that works really good in this scenario is to offer, when you have new students come on, I'll just use an example. It could be, doesn't have to be even golf related per se, but you said Golf Galaxy earlier. If you went to Golf Galaxy, this may not work at Golf Galaxy, but I'll just use it as the example. If you went to Golf Galaxy and said, hey, I typically bring on about 50 golfers every year to work with me in lessons. What I would love to do, if you're open to it, is to give them a little gift card to Golf Galaxy when they sign up with me. So then they come in and actually shop with you. Would you be open to doing that? So I can refer you business of golfers in the area to come in and shop. Wow. And typically a business will be very open. They'll be like, yeah, we're happy to do that. Here's a, $50 off your first purchase.
That's a great idea.
So you can use this in two ways. You're building a symbiotic relationship with them. Now, if you do this favor for them, you could potentially ask for a referral back, right? And if like, as we build a relationship, you could ask for that. But the other thing is like, it becomes a part of your package that you can sell. For my new students that come on, not only do you get all the instruction and this and this and this, I also have a relationship and partnership with Golf Galaxy. And so as a new student, you get a $50 off your first purchase. We can set you up with some new stuff for the year, whatever that might be. That's one example. Like this could literally be anything though, right? Like it could be a coffee shop that you work with. It's just like, hey, I'm a local business. I would love to support another local business. I bring on X number of students and do this many lessons. I love frequenting your coffee shop. I'd love to send more people here. Is there anything we can work out to give my students so that they come in the first time and have a great experience?
Yeah, that's great. I think, other small businesses are in the same boat. They don't have all the traffic that Starbucks does, or, a boutique little fitness place doesn't always have, One Life Fitness right next door. I so
Yeah, fitness wise, it doesn't have to be golf specific either. Like you could walk in and be like, hey, I have X number of students every year. They are often asking me about things that they could do to help their game. I give them advice and direction, but they don't always have a place to come work out. I'd love to refer them. Anything we can do, all that kind of stuff. And then usually that starts a relationship, and then they're going to be willing to reciprocate by saying, cool, well, we'd love to put some of your materials out at our desk, or is there anything we could offer our members if they want to come see you? And
right.
I always think for like customer acquisition, if you don't have to pay in time or money to get somebody to become a first-time customer, you can give a bigger discount on the front end on that. So like, yeah, it's great opportunity there for sure. So
That's a lot of great stuff, Dan.
In the idea of time, just to make sure that like we don't go too long with this, we'll definitely do another one, and we'll talk specifically about online. But I just want to wrap up with in person. A really effective and simple strategy to get in-person leads is to run ads. Because whether you're on Meta or you're on Google, Meta being Facebook and Instagram, obviously Google being Google, you can run geo.
I do boost ads. Is it boosting not as good as running ads? I did some Instagram ads, but yeah.
I wouldn't just boost stuff unless there's a specific strategy behind why you're doing that. For me, using ads managers, like going into the back end of running ads on Facebook, which is Meta, Facebook and Instagram, both under that same veil, or Google search campaigns, you can geo-target locally. And now you're going to need to probably spend at minimum $500 to $1,000 a month to get enough data into the system to understand how it's rewarding. But if you spent $500 to get one student that paid you $1,500,
right,
I will take that all day, because that person likely, if I do a good job, will spend more with me in the future.
I got one question for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got it, and I don't mind if I got ripped off, because I probably did. My Google business profile got unverified because I didn't send in the right Google crap. I hate that whole thing, by the way. So I said, they permanently closed my Google business profile so I had to call a brand company to get me unverified, or to get me verified. Well, I knew I could verify myself if I did whatever they wanted me to do, but I don't have time to jump through all the hoops. So I paid the guy $500. I said, look, you got to give me a timeline on this verification process. It's not going to be like whenever you decide to work on my case. You got to get this verified because I need clients, so I don't know. What do you think? You got to be verified though by Google, right?
So there are companies like that kind of take advantage of seeing this happen to business listings. And so they just cold call you until you pick up.
Well, they didn't cold call me. This is a Google business. This is a company that they say sponsored by Google or whatever.
Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of them. A lot of times, like they'll see that your listing's not set up properly. And so then you get all these cold calls all the time from them saying your Google business profile has not been verified. You're at risk of all this stuff.
Is that a bunch of BS or what? I just want to know.
So technically, like, it's not set up correctly, and so it's not optimizing the way that you show up. So you do want to optimize it, but you don't have to pay this company $500, whatever it is, like hundreds of dollars to solve it for you. You can solve it yourself. And I would guess that not all of them are legitimate. Some of them certainly are.
Right.
But yeah, I would definitely optimize that. So like you got ads as one, but I would work with somebody that knows what they're doing, or like educate yourself, which honestly you can find everything you would need to know about running Meta ads locally and running Google ads locally. You just have to be decently tech savvy so you don't mess it up. To set that up, spend enough to actually get some results.
So what's the order? I mean, what do you think? Meta's more What do you think? I mean, which is easier?
I
Facebook, Meta,
personally,
Instagram? What do you think?
I personally think Meta is easier, which is Facebook and Instagram under the same veil.
Okay.
But
Which one would you do, Facebook or Instagram?
I would
Because
do both because they're in the same, like you just, if you run an ad through Facebook, they automatically go to
right,
both.
mine's all synced up that way.
And so that's what I would personally start with. And
Okay.
you just target based on location, and that's pretty much it, like location and age demographic. And then because it's local, you just make an offer. The trust is built in, and you don't have to spend a ton to start having conversations with people who are interested in coming in for like that free assessment or that initial analysis that then leads to the consultative doctor sales approach to sell the big thing.
Right.
And then you're just looking at understanding how much does it cost for me to actually get one of these scheduled? How much does it cost to get somebody in the door? What am I actually selling? The problem for most coaches when they run ads is they don't sell a $1,500 12-week thing. They sell a $100 lesson.
Right. I don't do that.
That's not going to work real well. Like
I did that for a while, and then I fairly quickly realized it's a waste of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta sell a holistic, comprehensive program, long-term coaching
100%.
model, because you gotta have 12 months of income if you want to do this. You can't just have, so.
And at the very least, set it up to be a recurring thing where it's like, hey, you want this?
I used to have a recurring subscription through Wix, and then what happened was I got hacked. I left my my back office open for like 2 hours. Somebody pinged my IP address, put spyware on my computer, took all of my bank account information, all of my contact information. I had to call cybersecurity people. It was a big mess, man. I almost lost money. 2 of my clients lost $1,000. So if this is being recorded, don't leave your back office open, and make sure you got spyware on your phone and spyware on your computer, malware bites, whatever. And
don't click anything or open anything you don't know where it's
don't
from.
use a local Wi-Fi network and open a bank app, because you will get hacked.
So just wrapping things up for people too, like we'll do another one of these, a follow-up on this exactly, and we'll purely talk on online, in person, to put a bow on everything that we talked about. Set a target and a goal, set up your business the right way, know what you want to hit, know what you need to make every single month, know how many lessons or packages that ends up being, know how many people you need to get in the door to make a certain amount of sales, to make that amount of revenue. And then we need to design the system that's going to get them in the door. Start with the lowest hanging fruit.
Me, I'm 10,000 a month. That's what I want. Like right now, that's my goal. I used to be 15 when I was in Maryland, but that's 120 a year, gross. And that's not unrealistic if I work. Because I can do that. So, what is that package wise? Well, you got to get, you got to sign up 5 people at 1,500, 7,500. And then you got to have some privates in there for, what is that? Another 2,500 in private. So again, you got to sell packages. If you're going to do privates, don't sell single lessons. I do 10-pack or 5-pack, 1,500, or for younger people, that are in their early 30s and have kids. Okay. You don't have to pay up front. You can pay, but it's going to cost you per lesson. It's going to cost you $175. If you do 10, it's going to cost you $150. So it's up to you.
Yeah. At the very least, package stuff that way and sell it. Longer term committed relationships. You could always start with an initial lesson in order to build a relationship and then sell the longer thing. But yeah, know all those numbers to market, lowest hanging fruit, reach out to past leads, past prospects, past clients, current clients, re-up current people, sell them into longer term things if they're just doing one-off lessons, then expand out into other opportunities to explore creating the demand. We'll talk building a brand.
That I learned also from a sales guy was write down from top to bottom your most important clients and make a list of them and call them. Make a list of them, like the most important, the ones that spend the most money, call them first. And then just go down the list, and you should have 30 to 50 clients you can call. If you make 5 calls a day, you should get some business.
Yeah. That's the easiest way. I think the problem is most coaches won't actually take the time to do that, but And think about upselling your current clients into new stuff.
Well, and the other thing is, and I didn't even talk about this, but only make your packages 6 months. Do not do a year, because if use it or lose it. It's one season, use it or lose it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't do if you're going to sell a 10 lesson pack, don't let it needs to have an expiry date. And I would do that within a condensed window based on like, this is what's optimal for how frequently they need to come to get the result that they're after. If they're coming like once every 3 months and using these 10 lessons over the course of 3 years, like they're not getting any help.
And the analogy is just like fitness. 10 minutes of fitness a day is better than 3 hours a month.
Yep. 100%. All right, Jim. Well, we're going to wrap things up.
That
Hopefully this was
great,
valuable
man.
for everybody. We'll dive in even more in future series. If you do ever want to be a part of one of these, you can reach out and contact V1 to basically apply to do some of these business audits in the future. We can cover any topic that you want. And I love diving in just like we have. We'll do a follow-up with Jim and talk social media, online, building his brand and creating the demand through that while he's simultaneously, also trying to grow the in-person. It's challenging. It takes a lot of effort and time, but hopefully I'm going to help you guys to simplify and just understand the reality of doing this successfully and what it takes. So appreciate you if you're watching this. If you want to look into anything else or getting help with building out landing pages, setting up email campaigns to reactivate previous students, or signing up for any of these audits or webinars in the future, contact V1 where you're watching this through. And we'll get in touch again. Thanks, Jim, and we'll chat soon.
Yeah, this was great. I mean, that was a deep dive, and I appreciate all your time and all of the experience for in marketing. I think golf pros are going to love it, and you just have to be proactive. People, you don't sitting around waiting for the call is not going to work.
No, definitely not.
All right. Thanks again.